Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Credential Up Houston. My name is Margaret Ford Fisher. Our focus today is on the trucking industry. According to a CNN Money report by Jack Cafferty, there are 200,000 long-haul trucking jobs that are going unfilled. In general, according to a report in the Washington Post, there is a massive shortage of truck drivers, and in the state of Texas, according to Mark Collette, in a September 2018 article, truck driver shortages constrain booming Texas oil fields and the U.S. economy. These are jobs where truck drivers can earn an average of $40,000 a year, which is $4,000 more than the median wage for all jobs. We will talk to experts in the industry to discuss the crisis and how residents in the community who wish to train for employment can get more details. Our guests today are Ms. Jacqueline Ferguson, Project Manager, ATA Associates, Houston. Mr. Bob McDowell, owner and manager of Dewey and Sons, Incorporated. Mr. Martin Garsee, Director of Transportation Center here at the Houston Community College. We thank you so very much for joining us. So tell us about the shortage. This is really very critical. And so what do you see as being some of the causes for that shortage? Mr. McDowell.
One of the things that we see, it is a difficult job, and so therefore not everyone that would like to be a truck driver is, maybe we would use the word cut out to be a truck driver. There's only, it takes a little bit of time for a person to get involved in the industry. There's just a lot of, a person has to pass a DOT physical, they have to obtain a CDL license, they have to be physically fit, and then most of the entry-level jobs, or many of the entry-level jobs, are over-the-road jobs, so that's a little bit more different, a lifestyle that maybe people are not used to. And maybe the trucking industry, maybe overall we could do a little bit better job of promoting that as a career and the other things that go along with it.
Well, of course, it is a very lucrative
Correct.
career, and particularly for individuals, for example, who want to go through short-term training. You made reference to some of the problems associated with being a difficult job, but for family members, for example, who want to pair up and drive, it seems as though for those who might experience that difficulty, they know they have hours to meet in terms of delivering a load, that they can share, father, son, father, daughter, etc. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, there also are roadblocks for people coming into this as a profession. To drive interstate, you have to be 21 years old, and insurance companies really require that you have 1 or 2 years experience. And so someone coming out of high school can't directly go into driving a truck interstate. And so we were in Washington a couple weeks ago with our Texas Trucking Association trying to promote to allow reducing the age to 18, and with the safer trucks now, with lane diversion warnings and anti-rollover, it will, you have safer trucks to drive. And then if a company like mine is allowed to hire younger people, we would have training programs to make sure you have safe drivers in your trucks. But right now, they're not being hired, and so when they graduate from high school, they go into other careers. And so we're seeing truck drivers retire and nobody's taking their places, and that's why we have this shortage. And so we're trying, our trucking association is trying to come up with ideas of how to address this, because the money is available for a good career, but someone has to have the training and the experience for somebody to hire them.
With ATA, you provide an oversight for like the safety and so forth, but you also have a CDL.
I do have a CDL, and I didn't intend to get one. I was going to grad school, and I was a coach for one of the teams, and you had to, part of the contract was you had to have your CDL to drive a school bus in order to keep the job. So I was able to get away with it for a year, and they said you need to go get one. So I got my CDL as a bus driver, and I took the team to their swim meets, and you know, and after grad school I thought I'm not going to use that again. And then I ended up getting into the trucking industry a few years later. And when I started my job as a safety manager, I thought, these guys aren't going to listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. So I decided, you know what? All right, I'll go upgrade my CDL and I'll learn how to drive it. So one of the shop mechanics went out with me, started in the yard, walked me through, and then that's how I got my CDL and tinker endorsement, hazmat, and thought, you know, okay, I can have a better conversation with these guys when I'm trying to say, hey, these are things that you should improve on the road, or just having better conversations overall.
That's impressive, really very impressive. And so the CDL stands for Commercial Driver's License.
Correct.
So in terms of the recruitment, are there very many females entering into the driver training programs and looking to drive over the road, for example?
Currently, about 7%, I believe, is the number that's used of the drivers are female. Every company that I'm familiar with would like to up that. There was just a report sent out this month by the American Transportation Research Institute that talked about not only the reason to hire females, they do a good job, they have less distractions, and there's several other things. So you're going to see more and more companies go toward recruiting the female. We probably have about sometimes 8-9% there at the college of females. The interest, and most of the time, and as you mentioned earlier, people, it's sometimes very much a family business, and so quite a few of the females that come through, it's because their husband is already in the business, maybe their dad or some relative, and they're coming through the program to fall into line in that family business, be it a company that their parents own, or just to they've been exposed to the business for a long time and realize that it is a good job. Those people probably have a little bit better understanding of the lifestyle of a truck driver because it's been in the family. So it makes for a good transition, and we've had many, many success stories over the years at the college with female drivers.
Well, that is something that really reminded me of an experience I had when I saw a female truck driver. She was there in the cab, and I pulled up and I saw her and I thought, oh my, I honked my horn and gave her the thumbs up. I think it's really pretty remarkable, and that certainly is one way for females who might be the primary breadwinners in order to take care of their families as well. And so with the mechanics of it all, we know that sometimes we see the 18-wheelers along the road and so on. So is there training associated with that? Are there other certifications that are recommended for drivers so that if they have a breakdown, they will be able to troubleshoot and perhaps repair?
Most of the drivers we hire already are experienced drivers, but there are certain things that are unique to oil-field trucking for the type of loads we haul, and so we have our orientation and training for new drivers to make sure they know how to load their trucks and then proper safety procedures if they do have a breakdown, and how to get over and put out their markers, and those are some DOT standards that you're required to do, and so we make sure all of our drivers go through our training program. And I'm sure bigger trucking companies have probably more sophisticated, but and then smaller, there's nothing to prevent anyone to go buy a truck and get their trucking authority. You could have a one truck operation. I'm not sure what they do, but we are real strict on safety and do a lot of background checks. And right now, with the driver shortage, we have trucks sitting with no drivers, and we're turning down a lot of work. But we still are selective on who we will hire and make sure they go through our training program so that when they're out on the road, we're not going to have safety failures.
Thank you so very much for that. And we're going to continue our conversation in just a moment, but we're going to take a break. And on this other side, we're going to talk about some of the additional critical issues in the trucking industry, and then we will go into a conversation about the training of prospective drivers. So please stay with us.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Hello, I'm Angie Gutierrez, Program Manager of Transportation Training at Houston Community College. Trucking delivers 70% of all freight tonnage and 80% of U.S. communities receive goods exclusively by truck. There are currently 3.5 million commercial drivers with average earnings of over $50,000 annually. Over the next 10 years, the American Trucking Association projects a shortage of over 100,000 drivers each year. Opportunities exist because industry growth, retirement, drivers not meeting current guidelines, and changing careers. This is an exciting opportunity for a new career. HCC offers a certified truck driver training program that prepares you for a new and exciting career. New courses begin every 2 weeks. Graduates are eligible for employment interviews with local and national companies. Entry-level wages average over $45,000 annually. We offer day, weekend, and evening classes year-round to meet the needs of our students and industry partners. Visit hccs.edu/trucks for more information.
HCC. So many locations. So little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. Today we're talking about the trucking industry and the difficulty in hiring skilled and certified drivers for over 200,000 jobs that are available. Our guests today are Ms. Jacqueline Ferguson, who is the project manager of ATA Associates Houston, Mr. Bob McDowell, owner and manager of WM Dewey and Son Incorporated, and Mr. Martin Garsee, director of Transportation Center of Excellence, Houston Community College. Thank you all so much. And you know, it's interesting, we were talking about the safety pertaining to how to troubleshoot and repair an 18-wheeler if you have a breakdown on the highway. And Mr. McDowell shared some very, very good points associated with industry requirements. So let's talk about that for a moment, because if I or another person were to have a breakdown on the highway, if you can't fix it, and chances are you cannot, you might call AAA or some other entity. What is the recourse for drivers of the road? Mr. Garsee.
Most of the time, companies have agreements in place in the areas at which they operate with companies who provide roadside service, be it tires or mechanical. Some of the larger companies actually have their own service vehicles that they use, but that's typically the way that it's handled. People have that in place for their drivers.
Okay, and so you, Ms. Ferguson, have been a driver, and you experienced a breakdown as well, so tell us about that. How did you handle it?
So I haven't personally experienced a breakdown, but I would get a call when someone had a breakdown.
Aha.
And our policy was, get to a safe place, put out your triangle so you can be seen, and we'll get someone out on the side of the road to meet you there. Because there are so many, the systems are so sophisticated that we want to make sure it's fixed correctly and not just kind of done haphazardly or anything like that, and that regulations are followed.
Very good. And so obviously, in looking at recruiting drivers for programs, this is a critical issue. But there are other critical issues as well that have been provided by the American Transportation Research Institute. And so I'd like for us to talk about some of those issues as well and how those issues can be resolved. Then I'd like for us to talk about the training of prospective employees in the industry. And so one of them was driver retention. Now we know that driver shortage was number one, according to the list. But driver retention is another. So let's talk about that. What leads to that, driver retention?
Well, in surveys, you think pay is number one, or why they leave, but right up there with that is respect, how they're treated as an individual, And so, we caution and train our dispatchers or driver managers that, this person may be having a hard day, and when they talk to you, treat them like a real person and give them respect. And so that's a real critical factor in keeping your drivers.
Absolutely. And so it's important for the managers to know that because they want to keep them,
Right.
but for the drivers also to have that mindset that I'm here to do a good job,
Right.
to earn my pay, and so I'll just move through
Right.
the bad day that the manager is having. So another critical issue is the hours of service. Is it 11 hours of the road?
It's 14 hours
14
on
hours
duty
on duty.
and 11 hours of driving.
And 11 hours of driving.
Right.
How is that logged in?
Well, now there's a mandated electronic logging device, the ELD, and that's been in effect for about 1.5 years now, I believe. And so more and more companies all companies are now required to have that. There's a few exemptions, but it's changed the complexion because the system is a little bit more sophisticated than just logging the hours. It incorporates a GPS, which tells where the truck is at. It records, it gives a roadmap virtually of everything that driver does. And so it leaves itself to not to error that maybe a pen and pencil or a person left to their own would do. So it's changed the complexion of what is being done. Each unit's about $2,000 or up, so the companies had to go out and purchase that were not already using electronic logging. So there's been an adjustment on that, but it's being done so that people are driving correctly, correct number of hours, it's being logged correctly. It should be foolproof. And so it takes a little bit of getting used to. Older drivers sometimes don't like change, and so there's that hurdle to clear. But it's been out, the systems have been out for quite a while, but the mandating, it being mandated by the federal government, it's only been out for about 1.5 years.
And so that accountability is there as well.
Yes.
In our experience, we switched to electronic logs about 6 years ago before it was required. And there's a lot of resistance and fear that a driver is not going to be able to work as much and earn as much money if they have to log their hours legally. And so we took our 6 top producing drivers to do a test, to the paper logs and the new electronic logs, and it showed them that they can still make the same amount of money. It's not going to cut their pay, and they learned that, wow, this is really easier than using this paper log where you have to draw these lines, and they actually help them manage their time better. So they got on board with it. So it was an easier transition for our other drivers to say, okay, well, I guess this is going to work for us. So
Yes, of course. And of course, I did not see in the list of 10 about the drivers who are in the passenger vehicles and how, and I've noticed as well, with the 18-wheeler drivers, they frequently have to also be observant of the drivers in the passenger cars because sometimes they will cut them off or they will try to pass on the right, and there's clear signage that you should go to the left.
Well, that's interesting. We were just had our Texas Trucking Day at the Capitol when we present issues to the legislature. And we had some statistics that of all vehicle accidents involving a fatality, 14% involved a truck. Of the 14%, only 4% were the result or the fault of the truck driver. And so we're using that to push a bill for Share the Road to make part of driver education for young people of what it is to drive around a truck. Make sure you're visible to a truck driver in the mirrors and not pulling in front of a truck and stopping real fast.
Very good. So we're going to continue our conversation in just a moment, and we're going to talk about the training of prospective drivers, and we'll go to you, Ms. Ferguson, and so we ask you to please stay with us. We'll be right back.
HCC. So many careers, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
HCC's online college is officially open. This not only means online classes, but also online degrees and certificates. You can now credential up anytime, anywhere. Join the fast-growing number of students getting their full college education from anywhere they use a laptop. HCC currently offers 32 fully online degrees and will offer 71 next year. You no longer have to find a way or time to get to college. HCC brings college to you.
One of the objectives we had with moving from centers of delivery to centers of excellence was to strengthen our relationships with industry across Houston. The whole idea of the Center of Excellence was to create an ecosystem where our partnerships are so tight that we can quickly develop programs that support industry, create jobs here in Houston, and then grow the economy and keep us as a global leader in many areas.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We're talking to our guest today about the trucking industry and the recruitment process, the safety process, and of course the training of prospective drivers. And so on this segment, as we continue our conversation with our guests, Ms. Jacqueline Ferguson, Mr. Bob McDowell, Mr. Martin Garsee, I'd like to go to you, Ms. Ferguson, to tell us just a bit about the recruitment process, because obviously this is very important because a lot of companies are looking for individuals who will meet certain qualifications, no drug use and so forth and so on. So tell us about that so that all of our audience members will know whether or not they qualify up front.
So it depends on the company. And in order to drive interstate, they need to be at least 21 years old with a commercial driver's license. And Martin does a great job training and getting those guys their first job if they don't already have a CDL. And then they also have to have, each company has their own criteria as far as how many years of experience they need to have, whether it's usually 2, or the insurance company may also have requirements as far as, you know, having violations on their license, a speeding ticket or something like that. It just depends on each company. So they look for, most companies, especially like Bob's, look for clean driving records and clean backgrounds. So it goes back to the company. And when I handle them, it was just kind of walking them through the process and showing them. Each driver also has, it's called a PSP, a pre-employment screening program. A driver can be pulled over by the DOT police anytime to check their equipment, and then they get kind of like a grade. And a company can see that before they go in to be hired.
So what about the wait time? Once a person goes through the process, the person is qualified, goes through the process now, and is waiting for the license, how long does that take?
Well, you know, that's critical timing. Everybody's fighting for these few drivers available, and so and they're needing a job, and so the faster you can get that applicant processed and earning money, the more likelihood you're going to get that applicant. So we tried to do everything in about 2 days to know whether to move forward with them.
And so once the student goes through the clean background check and all of that, so the next step is what?
Well, you know, there are these services where you can do a quick background check,
Okay.
and some databases, and then of course they got to pass a road test to
Right.
make sure they know how to drive.
Right.
And then we get the background checks, and then if that proves okay, then we can get the the drug screen and the physical, and then they're on their way to orientation.
And you can turn that around in 2 days.
Yes.
That is absolutely amazing. I've seen some of the truckers the drivers at the Northeast campus, for example, where your facility is located, Mr. Garsee. And it's interesting because they do a lot of the road tests there apparently as well.
Yes. We're very fortunate. We are a third-party tester for the Department of Public Safety, which has only been going on for about 18 months. So when a person comes to Houston Community College, we provide them with training. We have the trucks, we have the instructors, and we provide them with the training, and then we also are able to test them, and then they have to take their written test, and they have to actually go pay for their license at the Department of Public Safety. But right now in Texas, it's about an 8 to 10 week wait for a person to get an appointment to take a CDL test, and that's that's bad for the industry. But what we are able at Houston Community College to test them before the end of our class, be it our 6-week day class or our 12-week weekend or evening class. And so that person can leave after that 6 weeks with their CDL, and then they can go to the companies and as we talked about, the companies that they qualify for, and go right to work.
That's pretty remarkable, and that's a quick turnaround time, and you've had quite a number of successes as well to come through your company. So when we talk about the price of training, is it that the companies typically pay or the students pay, and is it cost prohibitive? Because this is going to be critical for some students.
It is, and it's both ways. There are some companies out there, some of the large over-the-road carriers, that do pay for certain individuals to come to school, and we do training for those companies, large companies. We also do open enrollment training, which means a person pays, and our course is $3,500. That includes everything. And we have financial aid available for some. There's also VA benefits, and there's a myriad of things that can help people to get the tuition, and then we have quite a few people who pay cash. So there's many ways to finance that, so to speak, and several ways to get into the industry.
Absolutely, and of course, as I understand it, that training and being licensed, both are really critically important because the liability is very high for
Absolutely.
Companies as well.
Right.
So, Mr. McDowell, you want to speak to that?
Well, trucking companies have become targets for lawsuits just because the attorneys know that a trucking company has a minimum of $1 million insurance, and so we fight lots of lawsuits just because whether we're at fault or not. So we have to be careful of do all our safety training and our records straight so that if the worst thing does happen, you can defend yourself.
And that's very, very important. And so I'd like to get recommendations from you. We have a few minutes remaining. And so I'll start with you, Mr. Garsee, and if you could give us your telephone number as well for students who are watching who want to enroll in your program.
Yes,
Any recommendations?
Our number is 713-718-8200. That's our main number. And you can go online to Houston Community College, hcc.edu, and type in the search for truck driving. Has our schedule, has all the prerequisites, it has all the information, and it's readily available there. But we've been very fortunate. We have a beautiful facility. We trained about 1,300 students last year, and successfully, and so we're very proud of our program and proud of the support that Houston Community College has gave truck driver training, and you especially being over that program for many years.
Thank you so very, very much, and you do an outstanding job. So
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Mr. McDowell, any final comments?
Well, companies are using social media and every new format available to let drivers know to contact you, and then you speed up how they can go to your website and fill out an application to expedite that.
Okay, and in a few seconds, Ms. Ferguson.
I would say when you're looking for a job or looking for a company, make sure that you think that it's the right fit for you as well, because there's many companies, and if you find the right fit, you'll have a lasting career.
That's great. Well, we thank you all so very, very much. Very good information that you shared. Ms. Jacqueline Ferguson, Mr. Bob McDowell, Mr. Martin Garsee, appreciate you all, and thank you very much for all of the wonderful work that you all do. And we thank you very much for watching. We invite you to please join us next time for Credential Up Houston, and we encourage you to always remember that it is important to credential up. See you next time.